Here are some highlights of the latest episode of the YoJoe Show Podcast.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the YoJoe Show Podcast. Hey, Joe, welcome to episode 26. How you
Welcome
doing?
to Hearts Beat and Lungs Are Working. How you doing?
I'm awake and alive and ready to get this started. Congrats on 3 million channel views. It's huge.
3 million.
Less than 10 months.
Yeah, we appreciate all of our audience consistently watching all the episode shorts and other content that we put out there. So you keep coming and we keep producing more content.
The official formation of what is known as the Board of Peace. This board has the chance to be one of the most
is to promote peace around the globe. 25 countries make up the initial membership, but the president says all are welcome to join. And the president is about to board Air Force One to head back to the White House now. Over the course of about 2 days, he accomplished what few believed was ever going to be possible.
So there's no shortage of craziness going on.
Yeah, that's for sure. Should we start from the top, the Board of Peace? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's a good start. That was obviously in Davos, announced at the World Economic Forum meeting, where Trump had quite the speech. We may want to talk a little bit about that. We don't have video of it. It's long, but it really has one theme. America first is positive. Let's see how it progresses.
Yeah, and I think one of the main symbolic moves in this is that it's undermining the United Nations, which is a very good thing because the United Nations has become beyond corrupt. They're essentially operate in the service of globalists in the best days and terrorist states and terrorist organizations in most days. And most UN organizations are extremely corrupted. And the amount of crimes that happen by UN employees and under UN operations is just staggering. So anything that the US does to undermine the United Nations, in my opinion, is a fairly good step. That video about Scott Jennings, though, that was phenomenal. He's really on top of his game. He's phenomenal to watch.
Scott posted that version with the music that he put in there on his
great
channel.
Song, too. Very befitting. She was just like rambling, just completely meaningless. When you watch that, it really does dawn on you, like, why the heck does anybody still watch legacy media? Like, for that, it's just depressing, to be honest, the level that the media has fallen.
And we can have differing opinions, which we all do. They go on there and they just basically say, if you voted for Trump, Trump's a Nazi, Trump's this, Trump's a fascist. All the people that voted for him are horrible people. And that's the whole point. He's like, are you kidding? The majority of people, including the popular vote, voted for him. You may not. It's okay to voice a different opinion, but don't go and just say that everybody's an idiot because you think your position is the only correct position. And that's the whole thing. Obviously, he sits on there, as Batya does also on CNN. She shows up on there, and as the counterbalance to what's trying, they do have, again, some of these other individuals on there.
It just helps the ratings. That's all they care about.
Yeah, and look, it is what it is, but let them speak, let them say what they're going to say. That's okay. And I think when it comes to voices in the legacy media, voices in the elected and community leaders to stir the pot and basically have dissent, that's why when you hear, again, Batya was saying, look, it's refreshing to hear someone just basically saying, look, I'm not going to go there. We're going to work through this, and that's unfortunate that things happen sometimes that are unintended, unexpected consequences, but I'm not going to go out and start making things worse. And then we have a very experienced protester who's an artist and been there, done that for many years, who speaks as it is and pointed out, and this was before the second incident that just happened a day ago, where a second person died because of the interaction with ICE. This was before that, but it's the same message.
Yeah, and the visibles, at least on that one, don't look as good for sure compared to the situation with Miss Good, which was much more straightforward, I would say.
I would tell you both of them are the same. Okay, it appears from the latest videos that I saw, and it's left to be seen for sure, but that with the group of agents, Border Patrol or ICE, that were with this gentleman, I saw a video where he was pushing back as they were pushing him towards the sidewalk. He was resisting and pushing towards them. Not smart. Second thing, he gets on the ground, and one of them takes the gun, apparently takes the gun away, and he gets shot perhaps after that. I don't
Yeah.
think, I'm not an attorney, but I don't
There's
think
an image really where you just see like an ICE agent with a gun to his head. It looks like he was basically assassinated almost, and it just the optics are definitely bad.
But the optics have nothing to do with the law, and the optics have nothing to do with the reality. Let's think about it. I don't like the narrative saying we showed up at a protest with a concealed weapon and extra magazines. That's ridiculous.
This is America here. Hello.
So I'm not going for that narrative. However, here's the way I look at it. If you're carrying a concealed weapon, or carrying, certainly if it's plainly visible and it's open carry, but even for a concealed weapon, first of all, that comes with tremendous responsibility. If you're going to go into an environment, okay, like that, you're going to have to be 1,000 times more careful. And then if you have interaction with any law enforcement, there's only one possible thing you could do. Hands up.
And say,
do not resist. Say, I'm a concealed weapon permitted. And he didn't apparently even have any ID on him, which I didn't look it up, but I'm assuming in a state like Minnesota, you would be required to have your concealed weapon permit while carrying. So it's suspicious as to why he didn't have the ID with him. Let's just give him that he forgot it at home by accident. But all that being said, okay, if there was any sort of contact with law enforcement, there's no possible other explanation but do not resist, do not fight. Don't say I have a gun. You say I have a concealed weapon permit and I am carrying. I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. Repeat that a couple of times. Have your hands up. Okay. That's it. That's the only possible way to have an interaction like that. Undercover police officers have been shot. And these are considered lawful, good shoots because the other cops didn't know this person was undercover. Okay. And they saw a gun and the person was acting in a way that they perceived a threat. So if you're in that situation and the police or law enforcement officers at the time perceive, and any reasonable person would say, could you see that law enforcement officer in that moment perceiving a threat? And if the answer is yes, then they can use lethal force to push back.
They did take away his weapon first, so that's one thing. And
that doesn't from a legal framework, I don't think that's the point, because it's unclear to the other officers whether they knew. The one who took it away may have not, in the mayhem, it may not have been clear to the other ones. Okay. That's what people don't get. They're like, oh, look, if the officer that discharged the weapon was not aware that there was, and by the way, you don't know that there's any other weapons on there in the moment. It all has to do with in the moment, what would a reasonable person in that situation do? Okay.
This guy was kneeling. He was handcuffed. He was surrounded by eight ICE agents or something. Maybe not handcuffed, but almost. And it was basically right to the back of the head.
He may have been reaching for where the weapon was. They may have seen that there was extra magazines. They didn't know if there was any other weapon there. Look, bottom line is, I spent almost a decade on the road as a paramedic and an EMT, and I can tell you, you just never know. Okay. And the bottom line is, the simple answer to this is, as tragic as and wrong as it is, okay, because no one wants to see anyone lose their life. This is being created. Why? Because people are it's if you run across a highway, you might be able to run back and forth across the highway a few times.
Don't be surprised if you're hit. Yeah.
But then one day you might be hit. They'll blame the driver of the car who hit you. You see where I'm going with this? If you're going to be in an environment like that, okay, and you're armed. Well, and if you can be armed, but if you are, and there's any altercation, even with other people, you better watch out. Okay. That's number one. Number two, because they'll perceive the threat. And then once you consider to have lethal force handy in there with you, it changes the equation. That's one thing. The second thing is, you have to look in the broader context. Okay. He was not listening. I saw him actively pushing back in one of the videos. They got him on the ground. They didn't know for sure. I don't believe for a split second that a law enforcement officer wanted to take someone's life.
And impede ICE officers, and they refused to allow the city police to protect those ICE officers in the context of their duties, willfully aiding and abetting this violence.
I think Stephen Miller's remarks at the end were right on point.
I agree. That summarizes the situation as I was mentioning earlier. It's these activists, leaders, elected officials, they're egging this on. This is what they want. And in Minnesota, let's not
We
make
want people to die.
let's not make a mistake. In Minnesota, they're trying to obviously deflect from the fact that there's so much corruption that's been found over there. They'd rather people be talking about this than talking about that. Okay.
Yeah.
But to see people in the streets doing this, if you saw Tim Walz yesterday, he looked like he just found out that Santa Claus wasn't real or something. He really looked down and out, and it's because they're in a pretty bad situation.
He's
That
about
if
to be
they're-
sent to jail because he is in on so much billions of corruption. There's no way he's getting out of this. And this is like his last few moments of freedom, and he's terrified for his life. So he may as well egg on these radicals to go ahead and protest ICE.
Yeah, ultimately, if local police or the National Guard, which they've now deployed into Minneapolis, it was deployed and initiated by the state, by Tim Walz, the governor. The reality, if they put their police and their National Guard in the streets and there's a skirmish of some kind and someone gets hurt or worse, now they are going to have the same answering to do as the federal forces that are there, and they don't want to be put in that position. It's easy to sit back and criticize when you're not there, being spat on, having people throw things at you. There's a limit to what even their local police is going to be able to tolerate, and that's why they don't want to be put in that position. They really don't.
Yeah, I think the first clip we watched with showing all of the sex offenders and the rapists and the pedophiles and the murderers, it really shows the importance of ICE operations. It really drives the point home that what they're doing, even though the media, the legacy media, tries to portray it like it's just your average mom who's here technically illegally and is beaten up and sent out, maybe one or two of those kind of get caught in the web. But the vast majority of people that they're targeting are real hardened criminals that we do not want in our country. And our countries, our societies are usually historically were very safe societies because they didn't contain these people until the last 30 years, but specifically under the Biden administration, when these people were imported in bulk by the federal government, which is just horrible. I think we also saw the Mamdani on The View, where he says ICE is doing the opposite of their job and they're not doing their job, and that's why people are mad. I'm like, how much of an idiot can you be? Because what ICE are finally doing is their job. After years, possibly decades of being barred from doing their job, being stopped, being halted, being harassed, and being just taken out of service, essentially, finally they've been unleashed to do their job. And boy, do they have a lot of work to do. What do you think about the whole situation of Don Lemon going into the church and just harassing the people there? What's the story there? Are they not standing up enough with their Latino and Somali communities, as the guy was chanting? I don't know. Most of those communities are not very American to me, especially the Somalis.
First of all, they've now made arrests. The woman who was speaking, who was the organizer of that riot or event.
And the attorney who's also the priest, who's also
she's everything, right? And she's there because of God. So she's been arrested, and as I believe one other person, I think the judge declined to allow Don Lemon to get arrested, but ultimately he's saying, as a journalist, I was just there documenting. But there's video that he obviously knew. So there are two laws on the books that have been on the books from many moons ago. One of which, the more recent law, really was enacted to protect abortion centers. So people were outside picketing and protesting, and it was to protect them. But in order to pass that law, they had to have some concessions. And one of them was that same law protects houses of worship. So it is illegal. It is a crime to go and disrupt and threaten a house of worship like that. That's number one. So that's a crime. Second, there's the KKK Act, Ku Klux Klan Act, that essentially also comes into play, believe it or not, because of how it was written. And these are laws that are on the books that can be totally enforced. And just law aside, just as any moral person, again, that's my whole point. You can go protest all you want. Do it in a public space. Do it somewhere people can hear you. Go and spend the whole day on a megaphone saying what your point of view is. And if people want to listen, that's great. But once it turns to violence, once it goes into houses of worship and starts disrupting the services, and you have to be dim-witted to look at that and feel that the people in there weren't threatened. There were little kids in there. It was threatening. It was a mob of people screaming at the top of their lungs in the middle of a church service. Okay. Yeah. Don Lemon then is being interviewed. And what does he say? He says, "Oh, I'm not of that particular Christianity, that particular church, but some of these churches, they actually have their roots in white supremacy, basic supremacy." Now, you do realize his husband, who he married going on 2 years ago, is a white, I think, real estate agent or broker. Okay. So I don't know. It's a little confusing to say that he's worried about white supremacy if he hates the whites so much. That's number one. Number two, all of this talk about going in there and the people being threatened because they couldn't afford a Starbucks latte or whatever. You do know that Don Lemon, of all people, reportedly was making somewhere from 4 to 7 million a year while at CNN. He got a settlement to leave early in his contract, which supposedly was over 20 million. And apparently the podcast he runs now, he makes at least as much or possibly more than he made at CNN. So
even though he likely barely gets any views, and most of those are probably paid for bots or who knows what.
It's advertisers that they're paying because he has a name.
Yeah.
And then when he has the audacity to act, "Oh, I have nothing to do with this." No, you egg this on so you could go and record it, so you could go and be there firsthand, and you encouraged it. You're not innocent in all this. What I'd love to see is someone like him going and diffusing and saying, "You know what? I didn't see him recording himself telling me, you know what, that probably is not the right place to go." It's one thing to disrupt. That crosses a line that should never be crossed. But you don't see that, right? So again, all of this mayhem comes back to the quote unquote leaders and people in positions that they are viewed as some sort of leader, even Don Lemon. He has a voice, he has a following and so forth. And shame on him for basically wanting this, because the more mayhem, the more stories to cover. I guess he'd rather do that than a gardening show. So he'd rather have people screaming in the streets and have all kinds of violence. But look, there's a lot going on. We know there's a lot of corruption all over the United States with these social programs. And there's people funding a lot of the organized protesters, showing up with vests and walkie-talkies and all kinds of stuff. They show up like in an instant, hundreds of people. Okay. And people that are out there that are YouTube/independent journalists, there's tons of reporting where they've seen the same people at all these different types of events for all different things, but it's the same people coming and protesting. And mixed in that are the people in the community that have been basically told by the legacy media and their elected officials that they're bad people if they don't go and do the same as well. And they're allowing those individuals to put themselves in harm's way. They don't know the risk they're taking. They're crossing all kinds of lines, and they're doing things that normally they would probably never do because they feel they have to, because they've been brainwashed into thinking that. It's just sad to see. There's nothing positive in any of this. But we have some more video.
So just for the fun of it, I pulled up Don Lemon's podcast. I was just curious to see how many views he gets on an average video. And a lot of his videos, he's getting 4.1 thousand, 20,000, 13,000. Some of them go up to 80 or 90,000. Occasionally, they'll pass 100,000. He has 1 million subscribers because he has a big name. He's been on TV for a very long time. 36,000, 24,000, some 100, 200,000, but those are pretty rare. But the fact is that the advertisers, all these big brands, probably give him millions and millions of dollars, even though he's getting as many views as we'll probably be getting in a few months from now. We're already at the low end of his spectrum, and our good videos are already at the high end of his spectrum, and we're nobody doing nothing, you know what I mean? But he probably makes millions of bucks because the advertisers want to give him so much money because he fits their ideal persona, right? He's man of color, and he's gay, and he's extreme leftist, and he just stands for every stupid thing that they want people to stand for. So the big brands are willing to give him big money, even though in terms of views, 24, 35,000, that really isn't much, even compared to us. And again, we've just barely been at this for 10 months.
No, very true. It is what it is. And look, you would hope he'd use his, we're having like over 1,000 people that have come forward as whistleblowers, and they're basically they're bringing the receipts showing this is how it was done. This is what was going on when Tim Walz got into, and the Attorney General Ellison got in at the time. So they can't say they didn't know about it because it was already there, and it was actually something that was discussed when they were running. And
not to mention airport employees that have been saying that what we just caught of one man with a
Right.
suitcase of
that's
700,000.
what I was just mentioning.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like this has been going on for years. Thousands of people, thousands of Somalis going for there and back every single week, and nobody ever tried to do anything about it. They were basically like a protected class almost in the airport. The employees were told not to touch their bags. It's just ridiculous. It must be billions of dollars smuggled out.
I want to play another clip because if you're thinking that the idea of government controlling everything and government running these programs that you can trust them, we now have a new mayor in New York City, our biggest city, or one of the shining cities in this country that's been one of the proudest places for the United States in years past.
Historically, yep.
It was a great place.
Yep.
It's had some decline. It's had some issues. It got a little better now. Now we have someone who's a declared Marxist, essentially, there, who wants to have the government running everything from grocery stores to. Let's listen to Bill Maher, what Bill says regarding some of the thoughts about the people that the city government is putting in place and the position that they're taking. I wonder how this is all going to work out over there. Let's take a look.
It matters that the mayor stands by, and I assume stands with, someone who says things like, if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize private property, it's over. Seize private property. Home ownership is racist. Elect more communists. Private property, especially home ownership, is a weapon of white supremacy. Really? Even among the 20 million black Americans who own their own home? I mean, these are the kind of utterances I might forgive as something a dumb white girl said while she was at Bryn Mawr. Because it's the kind of privilege hating you can only learn for $95,000 a year. But these are statements made as an adult. Yes, for co-eds from elite private colleges, you're only a lesbian until graduation, but the communism lasts a lifetime. Democrats seem to be having this debate whether or not Mayor Mamdani is a socialist or a democratic socialist. Let me settle it. He's a straight-up communist. How do I know this? Well, I'm reading between the lines when one of his major advisors says, elect more communists, which is fine. It's fine. It's a belief system. He's allowed to believe it, and people are allowed to vote for it. But if liberals deny it, like he's just going through a goth phase, they're going to lose more elections. This is not a communist country. And this is the pendulum never lands in the middle problem I'm always bitching about. Really, the choices we get here are either the worst version of crony capitalism or communism, either a side deal for the Trump family every time he does business overseas, or the lady who says, impoverish the white middle class. Oh yeah, there's a great campaign slogan for you. Honestly, as New York mayoral races go, I was less creeped out by Anthony Weiner's dick.
Yeah, and that was hard to top.
So it's worth emphasizing that Sia Weimer, whatever that lady's name is, who says to take away the homes of every white person, her parents, who are basically whiter than a pale white wall, as you can see by looking at her, live in a $1.5 million home. And she was stopped on the street and somebody said, hey, you said we should abolish all white homeowners. We should take away their homes. Do you agree? She says, yes, of course. She says, including your parents' $1.5 million home. And she just basically flipped out and she had a mental breakdown on the spot. So it was, anybody who hasn't watched that video definitely should. It's also worth adding that in addition to Mr. Mamdani being a very well-spoken communist, he is also a jihadist. And we've discussed this in the past. He's met with terrorists. He promotes terrorism. The first place he went after he won the election was to a mosque to help chant pro-terror slogans. I don't know what happened to New York, but boy, are they heading in the wrong direction, don't you think?
Yeah, I definitely think, and I did see that video. It's like Bernie Sanders, who is an independent, democratic socialist.
Perspective. And so I was very...
Do you want to name names?
Absolutely, but I'm not. but I would love to.
For some time now, and for some strange reason, the West began to turn its back on the ideas of liberty. That is why in this same place in 2024, I stated that the West was in danger as a result of having embraced increasing doses of socialism in its most hypocritical form, which is wokeism. In turn, in 2025, I explained the mental parasites sown by the left in humanity. However, 2026 is the year in which I bring you good news. The world has begun to awaken. The best proof of this is what is happening in the Americas with the rebirth of the ideas of liberty. Therefore, the Americas will be the beacon of light that will once again illuminate the entire West, thereby repaying the civilizational debt with expressions of gratitude towards the foundations in Greek philosophy, Roman law, and Judeo-Christian values. We have a better future ahead, but that better future exists only if we return to the roots of the West, which means returning to the ideas of liberty. May God bless the West. May the forces of heaven be with us. And long live freedom, damn it. Thank you very much.
Long live freedom, damn it.
Yeah, amen. And respect to Javier Milei. He is a remarkable president. He's truly an inspiration. I love his optimism. The things he's doing in Argentina are really inspiring. And he really has a phenomenal moral compass. And this comes through every time. Last year, he gave an amazing speech, basically beheading the World Economic Forum in front of the World Economic Forum. And again, there's no problem of a location where decision makers come to talk important things. That isn't the problem. The problem is the whole kind of globalist idea that was behind it for the past 2 decades that now has basically been evaporated under the weight that is the Trump administration and others, including Javier Milei and his phenomenal speech there last year. His positive message is really inspirational. He even quoted like the weekly infiltrated and corrupted. I think it's pretty remarkable that we predicted the reversal of the food pyramid a bunch of months ago, way before it happened. And although the video we shared was comedic in nature from South Park, we were not joking about it whatsoever. We were definitely ahead of the curve on that one.
It deviates somewhat from the picture, which now basically is an upside down pyramid. And I think that was an attempt to go beyond what they could do in writing, because if you follow the picture, you're actually better off than if you read the written guidance, which hasn't gone as far as the depiction of it. But ultimately, eat meat, eat butter, avoid processed foods. If it comes from a farm, if you can grow it in a yard or in a farm, or on a ranch, it probably is what you should be eating. If it comes out of a box with a barcode with more than a handful of ingredients, especially those you can't pronounce, you should think twice before eating it. Something like 70% of the American diet is derived from highly processed foods, and that's been a big problem. And we believe in large part that it's connected to why the United States has become definitely one of the sickest countries in the world. Listen, I think we can learn from nature and we can learn from animals. Bottom line is, we know in the wild, animals will seek out the food that they're supposed to eat. They're not going to go look for other things. In fact, it's unfortunate that a lot of house pets get the same diseases as humans because we're feeding them our processed food. That being said, there's been some great work done recently showing just how smart dogs are and how they're figuring things out, maybe more so than we believed. And I think we've all agreed that learning from nature and learning from animals is important. And we've been having a biomimicry segment in the podcast. This one's slightly different, but it does report on how, are we becoming more like animals or are they becoming more like us? I don't know. Let's take a look.
Maybe both.
Maybe both. Here we go.
A recent study proves man's best friend is even smarter than we thought. Michael George shows us how our dogs can pick up what we're thinking even when we're not saying a word.
Down. Good girl, baby. Good girl.
Jamie Tan says her 1-year-old rescue dog, Molly, is one smart puppy.
Molly is exceptionally intelligent. She picks up on everything and she doesn't forget.
And sometimes it seems like Molly knows what her owner is thinking.
She's very emotionally intelligent.
She picks up on your mood.
Yes, exactly.
Researchers at Duke University tested the intelligence of puppies in what may be one of the most adorable studies ever conducted.
In this test, we are measuring inhibitory control ball.
The puppies had to find treats using only nonverbal clues.
Puppy luck? Okay.
What scientists
should have. Do you know any, yeah, I know tons of different.
Yeah, me too, man. Because I'm friends with like so many. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we should call.
Oh
You
yeah,
know.
He's
Yeah.
He's.
Call him up.
You know what? I'm gonna call him. Do it.
Wait. I don't want him to think we're calling him just because he's.
Oh. No, I'll handle it. I'll just play it. No, I'll just totally play it cool. So.
Hey, man.
Hey, what are you up to, dude?
Nothing, just grilling.
Cool. Okay. Hey, I was wondering if you would like to come over for a barbecue because today is,
What are you doing?
I'm sorry. No, I don't want you to think that I'm just calling and asking you because today is.
No.
And you're.
You're blowing it.
So,
Yeah, I know.